that was the start out. Like, let's talk. And I remember thinking, like, it's got so bad that I just thought every coach was a Yahoo. And I was expecting to talk to a Yahoo. And it took me a long time to even call because I just had lost respect for the entire industry. And I'm sitting on my front porch and we're talking. And I'm like, the Yahoo meter's going down, and oh my gosh, he knows what he's talking about. It's going up. And I'm like, he knows his stuff. And like, I will recommend you to forever. And I know my husband will too, because you've been there, done that. And that's what the industry is missing. So
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now. And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I've got Esta Ryder with us today, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. I've known Esta for some time, and she's going to bring some really great stuff that she's working on currently that I think can help a lot of people out there as well. So to maintain the STS tradition, no one knows Esta as good as Esta. So Esta, bring us up to speed, give us a little backstory, bring us up to where we're at, and we'll get into the conversation.
Sure. So my name is Esta Ryder. I have been in real estate for about 20 years and then started my own company a few years ago, which I just sold. And now we are selling in Florida, and I'm just a regular agent. I have a broker's license, but I don't own a company anymore. And I have focused a lot, which I'm doing with my husband, which is great. It's a lot of fun. On Wednesday is our 30th year since our first date. So obviously we've done a lot together over time. And so, but I've also started a coaching business to help other realtors, real estate agents achieve success. That's something I felt I should do for about 5 years. And for a number of reasons, just kind of put it off. And that company is called J2911. And we're excited for that. And that's me in a nutshell.
Great. Yeah, this thing on real estate and real estate coaching is a very interesting arena because there's a lot, like most coaching, there's a lot of different aspects. And when you say the real estate world, right, it's pretty ambiguous really, because there's a million ways to do real estate, right?
Sure.
So let's get into let's start by kind of defining what you're doing from a coaching standpoint, who specifically you're helping, and what's the niche.
So we started out, I wanted to do just general business because I've done that, right? Been there, done that, and that's my thing. But then I'm really focusing on eventually salespeople in general, but right now real estate agents who are individual agents or who are on a team that want to be individual agents. I've done this for a long time, so I've seen all kinds of different practices. I mean, I was here Zillow and Trulia and all that stuff. And so my thing is that there are so many, I feel like coaching is kind of almost like I don't want to say status thing, but like you do it because you can have, it's supposed to be fun and you can make easy money, and, meet people. And so it seems like everybody wants to be a coach, right? And so that was one of the reasons I stayed out of the space, because it was almost like a fake space. Like they wanted to do it, but they had been selling for 6 months, or, they didn't have any business doing there. And so I went from thinking it was a pure industry, like a way to help people, because I've been a teacher since I was 6 years old and helped other kids, and that's what makes me happy. But there were not, and you're that way. Like I've read your book, it's awesome. You've experienced the highs and as low as you can get and as high as you can get and the rebuild and everything. And so many people are like, oh, I sold a house 6 months ago and now I'm going to be a coach. And it's like, what? That's not how it works. So I want to make sure that somebody has an authentic coach who's been there, done that, and who really wants to help them. And it's an agent who needs the guidance and the one-on-one and some help with it, that maybe doesn't feel like they're able to do it and they just need their hand held a little bit while they learn the skills, or they feel like they have to be in a big team and they can't be, they want to be out on their own, but they're so terrified. That's who I want to help. So I love it when somebody lights up because like they get it, and I want to be able to help them do that. And so that's why we're just really focusing on real estate agents right now, and ones who just want to take it to the next level and just need somebody who's been around like forever, like me, who wants to help them.
Yeah, that's great. I think, like you said, there is the coaching industry, I would say, because I've been, around a long time as well, right? We seem before when there was no coaches, or there was like just these super high level executive coaches working with Fortune 500 people and whatever. And then then all of a sudden the coach thing started. Okay. I've been doing it about 8, 9 years now myself. And then you got to go through these transitions, like you're saying. Now, everyone all of a sudden wants to coach because it's easier than doing. It's like, instead of doing it, I want to teach it and that kind of thing. But they haven't put in the time of the doing. Right. So, I can come in, I got 35 years running multiple businesses, losing everything, starting over, rebuilding, all that stuff, writing books and all that stuff is great. So I love that you're taking this approach, because I've known you for a number of years now. And when I was working with you, okay, when I was helping you coach stuff, it was that you had that specific skepticism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not with me
Yes.
per se, but like, you're like, these people are just, they don't know
No.
anything.
Let me just tell you,
about
I
that.
had it with you too. I had it with you. You just didn't know. I remember sitting on my front porch because you had to do a call with you. I don't mean had to in a negative way. Just that was the start out. Like, let's talk. And I remember thinking, like, it's got so bad that I just thought every coach was a Yahoo. And I was expecting to talk to a Yahoo. And it took me a long time to even call because I just had lost respect for the entire industry. And I'm sitting on my front porch and we're talking, and I'm like, the Yahoo meter's going down, and that, oh my gosh, he knows what he's talking about. It's going up. And I'm like, he knows his stuff. And like, I will recommend you to forever. And I know my husband will too, because you've been there, done that. And that's what the industry is missing. So yes, I had skepticism of everyone, including you. And to this day, you are one of the few that I've come across that I'm like, you legit know what you're doing and you've been in that space. And that is who should be doing the coaching. And that was my holdback. I felt like I was supposed to do this 5 years ago, and I kept putting it off and putting it off because the whole industry was just kind of a turnoff, because there's less people like you, I feel like, and more people who just want to have that title, not that they should be. And that's sad, because I wonder how many people are not hooked up with the right person who can really help them.
Yeah, I think, I'm a big results guy. You know that, right? So I'm very results driven. So we want to see things happening. We want to have, whether it's a program or step by step or one-on-one, whatever it is, it's important that there's results, there's measurable results. Okay.
Sure.
So one of the things like you're doing, I'm sure, with your clients now is you have measurable results. When you have someone who's new in any industry, but we'll stick to yours, real estate. Okay. Whether they're in their first year, their first 6 months, or they're thinking about doing it, what I have found over the years, anyone, and myself included, because for my first 20 years of business, I didn't take help from anybody. So I wasn't looking for a coach. I wasn't looking for anything. I'm just going to take all the credit. I'm going to do it all by myself, which I don't recommend. Okay. I don't recommend doing that. When you get a coach, someone like you with the kind of experience you have in the real estate industry, who's going to, and you're going to do what we call in business, be the startup phase, basically, right? You've got these newer real estate agents, or they're early in their development. To find someone with your experience that's going to help launch them, because those are the brutal years, right? In real estate, the first year or two has got to be, it's unbelievably difficult, because you're basically 100% commission, right? Yeah. So talk about that a little bit, like that journey. I mean, you probably went through it when you first started, right? But how tough is it in the industry that first year or two?
Well, what's interesting is I was a newbie, 20 years ago in 2005. And so the technology wasn't there. We still had a lot of floor time, and it was way different. And then now, 20 years later, I'm kind of a newbie again, moving 1,000 miles from everyone that we knew, which we did in the last year. And so it's a little different, but I think the principles are still the same. The things you need to do, the step by step, the consistency, good habits, good routines, all of that is very similar, but it's also a little bit of thinking outside the box too. Some of my clients are new and we're helping them in the beginning. Some have been licensed for a while, and you're just kind of helping them like fix a couple things to keep going. And then the other thing is, just because they want coaching doesn't necessarily mean that they want to have a huge business. And so you kind of have to meet them where they are, because if their goal is to, just come home from their job making $4,000 a month, that's where you meet them at and help them with that, they might not want to make $1 million a year. And if you push what they're not looking for, you're going to lose them. So that's what's one positive about the individual coaching. And there's group coaching and all kinds of other things, but the individual, like, and you can kind of see what they're doing that they need to change a little bit and help them fix that. So I think that is important.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Esta, because here's what I tell people too. Whatever job you're doing, whatever business you're going to start, if you're currently making, I'll just easy number, 50,000 a year, and you want to start a business, and I tell you, hey, you know, this business, you could probably make $250,000 your first year. Okay. You're not going to have that ability to comprehend that. Okay. It's 5 times what you make. All right.
Right.
Not happening in your mind. You can't take someone from that to that. It's like you have to manage expectations. I think it's a really important thing. It's an ideal thing for coaches to understand. When I work with people, it's the same thing. Even if you're doing $1 million a year, we're not going to jump to 10.
Right.
Okay. Because it's too big of a 10. It's too big of a jump. People can't grab those numbers. So you back them down. So it's like, okay, you're making 50. Well, wow. Imagine if we got you to 75 this year. You're like, oh, that's 25. That's a lot, right? In their mind. You get them to the 75, and then you go to the 100 and 150. Now they get the confidence, right? They're able to run with that build. Okay, now I get it. It works. It like builds their faith and their confidence at the same time in the industry. And that's from what I've seen and what you're doing as well, is you need a coach that understands that, because your job as a coach is not just A and to B. It's not, this is the program that works for everybody. Like you're saying, it's very unique, especially one-on-one. You have to understand their strengths and weakness, right? Their fears, right? Where they've come from, where they're at right now. When you put that stuff together, now you can guide them, you know, to success, right?
Yes, exactly. And sometimes it's even about, and this is where experience comes in as well, you know, coming into a situation where, hey, I'm in multiple offers. Like, what does that look like? What would you do? Hey, you know, how do I handle this situation or that situation? And I've been in a lot of crazy situations, and we can offer that experience. And, you know, sales is somewhat across the board, very similar, whatever the industry is. We've helped other people in similar fields, but it's just making sure that they can get what they need to be successful is really what we aim to do. Because I don't want someone to, you know, put time and effort into this and feel like that it wasn't what they wanted and what they needed. And then they have a icky taste of what it is for coaching. And so that's why I think having good ones is so important. And I know you've helped people make different amounts of money and change things. And again, I think the experience and just the caring is a big part, that you really care about them. And when I owned my real estate office, there were several times people came to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about being a real estate agent. And I'm like, nope. You shouldn't do it. You know, this is why, these reasons. And a lot of times it was stay-at-home mom. I remember one girl, as if it was yesterday, stay-at-home mom. She's like, I'm a go-getter, stay-at-home mom, and I just want something on the side. And I said, don't do it. Like, it is not an on-the-side job, right? You're going to be frustrated. You're not going to get momentum. Don't do it. And she didn't listen to me. And I think she lasted about 1.5 years, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, you know, helping people understand what it is and what it isn't, and how it is to be disciplined and keeping a calendar and all the things that you might not have when you're working 9 a.m. and you're done at 5 and then you leave for the day. And sometimes it's those skills people need and that good foundation just with habits and things like that before they even get to the next step of the sales part. And that is what I think makes a big difference with individual coaching.
Yeah, I agree. I think in that industry, especially, we talked earlier about managing expectations, but there really has to be these, and I call them short targets, right? Because people talk about goals a lot. I've really shifted my terminology to know we set targets, because you hit a target. You know where you're aiming on a target. A goal, you kind of don't hit a goal. You got to like achieve a goal, get a goal kind of thing. So just like if I'm shooting, I can have different distances to the target, right? So we build those out for them too. And when you're working one-on-one with someone like you are, you're really able to see kind of their potential, if you will, or where they're at right now. And you can move the targets back and forth. That's what's great. You know, like you said, if you just give them some big number, hey, you got to sell 7 figures worth of homes this year. Well, that's a little overwhelming for a new person, right? They're like, okay, you're going to need to have 2 houses a month and whatever. So that could be a bit much. But when you can tether that and give them the understanding of how you actually achieve this. And that's what you're really good at. It's the scheduling aspect, building the consistent habits, like you said. And like you said, that's true in any business. Anything I don't care if you're going to the gym and you want to get stronger, faster, lighter, heavier, whatever you're doing, it's day in and day out, and from a coaching standpoint, that accountability is one of the keys to your success. Wouldn't you agree? Having that accountability, having that schedule, having someone help you stay consistent, that's where you're going to win.
Yes, absolutely. And then just knowing too, I think that, sometimes when someone has the high numbers that you're saying, they're like, I've sold $20 million of real estate, and this person thinks they can never do that. They see this huge big thing that seems overwhelming, and then it's like, okay, let's back it up. Like, they're in X state where a house is going to be 5 million, so maybe they only sold 4 million. You're in X state where the average house is 150,000 or 200,000. Like, let's just process that, and let's not feel like you're not as much, or you can't do it, or you're never going to accomplish that, because you're not comparing apples to apples. And so it's backing up and kind of making them feel, that they can do this, and not to feel overwhelmed like they're not enough, because you got to make sure that what the data is actually the numbers that have fit their area, and so they're not defeated before they start. And what is that called? Imposter syndrome, I guess, kind of something like that.
Yeah,
So,
that's really important. Really, it's like any business. If I'm
right,
selling a $5 widget or I'm selling a $20,000 widget, there's a difference.
right,
Okay, I'm
right,
dealing with different people. I'm going to need different numbers. So it's all relative that way.
right.
But
And
you're
that
right.
person selling $20 million, at $20 million of real estate, they're saying they're not going to say, well, but it was only 5 houses because they were 4 million each. They don't want to
Right.
share that part, right? And so then they can
Right.
kind of deflate some before they start, like, oh my goodness, the houses here are 200,000. How will I ever hit that? And then it's like, okay, let's back up the train. Let's look at this and see what they're actually saying, and what that can look like for you to achieve the equivalent of the 4 houses they're selling, versus being overwhelmed that you're not going to maybe hit the 20 million just based on your market.
Do you also find, because we'll talk sales a little bit here, because that's what you really have to train, right? Whether it's $150,000 or a $500,000 home, everyone's got to close the deal,
Sure.
right? And in real estate, you've got a sales cycle. It's not like, hey, met you today. I'm like, you're not buying a pack of gum. Okay, at the counter, it's like, this is this is people's, one of their most largest, probably their largest personal investment they make, right? So you got to deal with
Right.
that. So there's a lot to it to bring them through the sales process, and I know you're really good at that and helping people. And I think people need to understand, like, that's where the money is. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a $150,000 house or a $1.5 million house. The money's in closing deals, right?
That's correct. And so it's the steps of how you get there, of reading signals where somebody wants to sell. Maybe they're saying they don't want to, but I've done this long enough to know you better reach out and do this and this, because they're saying that, but I'm seeing those buying cues, and they're going to buy from somebody. They might as well buy from you, because you're a good person, you care about your people, you want to lead them through the process, you're going to build a relationship. And one of the things that I've like added to what I do, and I learned this from you actually, is, and I forget, I'm going to butcher it, so you have to fix this, but talking about, like, somebody did a job from you, and then you're like, well, can you help them with siding? Can you help them with, whatever? And I think it was like 7 times you can touch somebody that they're, and then in the real estate, it doesn't quite look like that, but it can be, okay, here's your single family house. And then you could maybe help their children or grandchildren or family, or help them become an investor, or, all these different pieces. And so we're not the one and done. We want to help them with the referral component of their business. And that's how I've always run mine. I've never had to rely on Zillow or keep drumming stuff up, because it's always been relational. And that's one thing that's important to me and how I coach people. And I love that. I even used that with my staff before. And here I am talking to, I can't remember what it was, but that
Lifetime
is
profitable value, LPV.
yes. And it really
LPV, lifetime
transcends different
profitable.
industries, because even though your industry was a physical, building, touching thing, and real estate's not, that is something that can be used. In my industry, it's more of a relationship part, but it's the same idea. And I love that. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think the most important, it's all industries. Doesn't matter what business you're in.
Right. Exactly.
No one wants to sell one thing one time to one person. Okay. The reality is if people buy something from you one time, regardless of the price, as long as you don't, you know, totally drop the ball, they'll buy from you again. That's the reality. So as a business, whether it's real estate or coaching or whatever it is, what is the next thing you can do for them? Like me, roofing, okay, they have siding, they have windows, they have gutters, they have all this other stuff. Over time, over 10 years, 20 years, instead of being a $15,000 customer, they're now a $60,000 customer. Car
Yeah.
dealer, I use the same example, right? I have 6 children. They're all driving now. My wife and I, we are a 7-figure customer to a car dealer.
Hmm.
Buy new cars every 3 years. There's 8 of us. Okay, they all average 40, 50, $60,000 now, these cars. That's a lot of money over the next 10, 20 years, for that car dealer.
Yep. So you would be surprised. I think, and that's one difference in real estate compared to what you're doing is because you'd be surprised how many agents don't follow up. And so, I had one, and this is an example. She sold them a house that she had a listing that was referred to her, and it was a dump. Like it was either tear down or full fix. And so she had a buyer call out of nowhere, and he ended up buying it. It was basically like called her because of her number on the sign. He bought it. And then I noticed when I was doing some research that it had been flipped and it was sold like 7 or 8 months later with a different agent. And so that was like business handed to her. And, 8 months later, it had sold with somebody else. And all you got to do is follow up and build a relationship. And I've heard agents say things like, oh, you stick around with somebody that long or whatever. And a lot of agents don't do that. And there are always new people coming in. And so you have that too. Like maybe they've been an agent or a client of mine for a number of years and now their daughter is selling. Well, what are you going to do? Say, no, don't buy from your, you know what I mean? So like you have to always keep that relationship because even when you do, there are still going to be times where it doesn't work out. But a lot of people are just, I mean, I don't know, they're lazy, I guess, or they don't know how. And so that's one thing that's been important to me. And that's what I always make sure I teach my agents. Like, this is how you do that. These are the steps. I love sending house anniversary cards. I've done it for a long time. It's just fun because when you've done it for 20 years, that it reminds you of that person that you liked, and it makes me smile. I love doing it. It's not hard, and I love it, and I'm sure people like getting regular mail too. That's like, oh yeah, she thought of me, and that's fun. That's what I enjoy is keeping that relationship part, and that is something that is a big component of me teaching other people how to do that, so they can have, so they're not always trying to drum up business as new people come into the field or as whatever happens there. So.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with it's relational. Sales is relational. No matter what you're selling, and yours especially, those cards, a handwritten thank you, little anniversary reminder and stuff, keeps you front of mind. Because not only do you want to help them with their next house, you want when their friend looks to buy or sell, they say, you got to talk to Esta. This is the only person you want selling your house. She does an unbelievable job. She's in contact, blah, 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 right? That's what we do. Any business is all about building the relation, is building for referrals, is building for confidence, right? You
Mhm.
create that. Like you said, they have children, they have friends. It's always about that. It's not the only way to do it, but it's such a critical aspect because why not serve them for the next 10 years? Are you going somewhere? Like you're there, like
Right.
be that person that all of a sudden you're a lot of towns and people know this, we're all over the country here. People know that one realtor, like they sell everybody's home because they built relationships because they know these people. They see them. They have dinner. They don't forget them. They send cards. We call it unexpected and meaningful gifts. I did in the gym business. Just hand them a Starbucks card. Man, you killed it today, man. Go get something to drink. And I give them that or whatever. And you do things like
Right.
that just it's just unexpected, but it has meaning. It's because you care. That relationship aspect, and I think especially in your industry, as to with real estate, to me, I don't know how you can do it without it, honestly, because it people are buying their home. They like
Mhm.
live there. They're going to spend the majority of their time in this place, and whether they have children or the needs and everything else you have to go through on this. That's why I think the coaching aspect on what you do is so critical, especially early stage when these people are, if they're kind of waning or they're kind of leveling out, you can come in and fix this stuff because, and I want to give this caveat. What we do as coaches, I call it outside eyes. We're
Right.
able to see what you can't. You're too close. You're too inside. You just need, and we'll come in like, and you'll think we're it. Well, we are it, but you come in and you're able to do it, right? But we just see it so simply because we've worked with so many people. We've seen it
Right.
over the years, and we can course correct you so fast. That's where you start getting the results because you're like, and when we tell you, people, the light bulb goes off, like you're saying,
Right.
well, I can do that. Yeah, you have to do that. Oh, okay. Then they do it. And then everything starts changing. So I really wanted to talk to you about, the real estate industry because I don't do a lot on that side because to me, it's a very unique sales system. I'm going to call it a system, right? There's a process you have to go through on this stuff. And there's so many intricacies when you may not think there is, right? A lot of people think, well, you're selling a house. They show them, they like when they get a house. Then you got to do the paperwork. But it's not like that at all, right? I mean, there's just so many. When I was working with you, just the steps we were building out, like it's this and this and the process, there's a lot to it to do it right and consistently, so
Right.
that's what you found, right? I mean, that's why you're bringing it to these people who need the coaching.
Yeah, right. And I think that that's where the experience comes in too, because when you have, those fresh eyes you're bringing in, it might be that you've had that experience yourself and you know how to help someone course correct or an idea they might not have thought of. And, I've had agents I've worked with who have been licensed 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and they're still asking questions that you can throw in another idea. Like, did you think of it this way? Or how could that work? And that is something that you can do with the one-on-one that you're not going to really find in a book, even though books can certainly be helpful. I'm a huge reader, or, you might not find in a seminar of bigger people or whatever, is that course correction or those tiny little things that you can do that makes an aha moment for them that will also help them with their clients as well.
Yeah, it's great to get knowledge. This is a lot of people probably heard this. If I read a book, put the book down, and I just go about my life, I have knowledge, but I have no application. Okay, it's all about taking the action. And again, going back to the coaching aspect, action, that's what a coach does, right? Their accountability, they're high action, they're setting the targets, they have expectations of you per week. I do the same thing. Here's what you can expect from me, and here's what I expect from you. That's what I tell them every week. It's like, you're going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to do this. And I'll see you next Tuesday at 9:00. Okay. So we that kind of accountability and attention, because I know in real estate, I know a lot of people who had started it. It's like lonely. It seems like you're all by yourself because who's going to help you? They're all trying to sell houses too. Right. So try to find someone. This is why the coaching thing is so important. Like, you are going to be in a sea of just endless nothingness, right? Because it's so difficult. Again, you can read stuff, but no one's really giving you the practicals, the day-to-day practicals. And I remember us talking about where you park on the street, how you do this, what do you do this? There's all
Sure.
these steps, right? I remember it was so cool the way you did that because you really understood like every single step matters. Because I do
Yes.
things similar even with contractors and everything, right? So let's talk about that a little bit and just the importance of that and why that matters.
Well, and I think that that's where the one-on-one is important too. I know it's back up to books for a minute. I'm a huge book reader, and what I've had to do, because I just enjoy reading, is I'll highlight it, and then I started actually going through each book and typing on just a document all the things I highlighted, and then just leave that book, and they're in a binder so I can easily refer back to them. And I've just kind of come to the conclusion, which I read in a book, that I'm just going to try to pull a couple things out of each book, because there are some good ones that have huge nuggets. You can't get it all. When you have a coach, they can help make sure you're pulling out nuggets, that they're pulling out those from what they're learning from you, and then they can help you, to do the right ones, the right nuggets for you to help you learn. And the system is so important. I mean, if you don't know what to do next in each step of the process, you might forget to schedule an inspection or whatever. And I think it's just important to have those steps from everything we talked about before, from like your safety to when you're under contract, to helping a seller know what to do to their house, if anything, or what's important to them so they know what they're going to do. Those are all different parts that all tie into the bigger whole of real estate or of helping your clients. When the agent has it step by step, they know what to expect. And that makes everything consistent with all their clients too. And then it becomes easy, right? It's like, anything that you do over and over and over just becomes natural, and that makes it less difficult and where you're more comfortable. And that's so having the system and the steps is huge because it makes them have consistency and learn and then feel comfortable, and then they're able to have all happy clients where nothing awful happens that didn't keep the deal together.
Yeah, I think, the word is when you create that mastery. Okay. When we watch someone who's really good at what they do and they do it and they make it look effortless, whether you're a gymnast or you're a real estate broker. Okay. When it looks like you could do this all day and like you didn't have to think about it, but all these details are perfect. You as the client don't see all the little details. You just have this result of everything was handled. It was an incredible experience, right? It's always about the
Right.
experience. So I think
It was a
that's what
smooth
you're driving
process.
home. Right. The whole thing is like that again, that's why they'll tell other people, I do it in construction a lot. I tell people it's very simple. You got 4 different pictures of like a remodeled kitchen. They're all beautiful. Okay, let's go talk to the homeowners. And you see the first, hey, you got a beautiful kitchen. They go, yeah, well, tell me about it. How was the whole thing? Oh, I'd never do it again. That's the response you'll get because it was horrible. I mean, it's dirty and it's torn up and the guys are swearing and they're doing this and they don't come when they're supposed to. They never talk to us. You have the experience. And you go to another one and said, oh, it was the greatest thing ever. Everything was clean. They wrapped up every day was perfect. They kept they did right an experience. They're going to tell their friends. The other one, never going to talk about that contractor again. Yet all of them ended up a nice job at the end. But it's the experience that matters, right? And that's what you're developing.
Right.
Again, from where you park, how you approach, all that stuff. Like a lot of people don't grab this though, Esta. They don't really understand the importance of this. And it's an expertise level. Okay. It's going up to mastery. And when you've got it, it becomes second nature. And that's what you're teaching. And then everyone goes through the same process, which has to make your job, okay, as a realtor, knowing all those steps, it's got to reduce some anxiety and stress, right?
Sure. And when you're selling, you always know who the good realtors are, and that's the real estate agent they're going to do, if something hard comes up, they know how to handle it and they're going to do the right thing. And those other ones that when it comes up, they're just going to be slimy and awful. And you just like, oh, you see their name and you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. But the ones who know what they're doing and are willing to walk through and handle hard stuff, because there's things that can be hard and read. I mean, I've had them before where, the one lady was panicked. This was probably, goodness, 15 years ago. And she's like, a week before closing, she's like, Esta, the septic came back and it failed. It needs a new septic. I'm like, okay. And she's like, you're not going to yell at me? I'm like, no, you're a really good agent who's done this for a long time. We're on it. We'll get it. It's fine. And, you might have another agent that you deal with who, when they would say, hey, this septic is gone, they would scream at you and, yell at you. And part of that is just either personality or they don't know how to handle a stressful situation. And what we want to do with coaching is teach them how to handle, there's going to be things that come up that may be completely out of your control. Check your attitude. This is the steps. This is what you do. Get through it. Be the one who takes care of it for your client so they can feel calm and not freaked out, and it'll be good. And so it's just teaching all those things and it's step by step, but it's also just attitude and how to handle tough things. And that's all part of that package that you can pull out to help them with whatever their needs are. So, and maybe they need to talk a little bit more. Maybe they need to talk a little bit less, like just, to help them know how to navigate sales. And sometimes it's as simple as, they might not know that you're supposed to, really listen to what your client says. And I remember when I had probably been selling less than a year, and I was talking to my broker about something, and our office manager was sitting there, and she's like, yeah, everyone knows buyers are liars. And I go, Marilyn, I can't believe you said that. And now I can confirm that. And they don't mean to be. They think they want three bedrooms and a fenced yard and they fall in love with something that's two bedrooms and it's a town. Like sometimes those things, and that's an exaggerated example, but sometimes those things happen and you got to be, so what coaching can do is prepare that agent for that and, let them know like this is how you make sure you're helping them get what they want and not showing them 100 houses and they're miserable because not one of them was what they wanted. This is how you listen. This is how you pull questions out. This is how maybe you saw a house you think they would love that they're not sure about. And you can, use your experience and your knowledge as a professional to help them see that. And that's all stuff that comes with experience, but can be expedited if you have somebody with experience helping you out. So that's why that's important.
Yeah, I think you're on the money with that because listening is a huge thing. When people, because they're going to tell you what they want, what they think they want, right? And then you're going to start showing, and then the real thing comes out. Because a lot of people don't know. It's like in construction, we show them a blueprint. Well, that's not going to help them. They can't read a blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as the walls are up, or the paint's on, or the appliances are going, they're going, oh, wait a minute, this isn't going to work. Okay, we got change orders. We can fix that and do all that stuff, So a lot of people are very visual that way. So you're dealing with that, especially with a house, right? So to me, if you're listening properly, because you also want to share that with them, things they said. Well, you had mentioned you wanted this and this, and you're looking for this kind of bedroom and this kind of thing here. Is that still the case? So you're like,
right.
Oh, yeah, it is, right? Because I would tell you, if I go around looking at it, you're getting overwhelmed, like, wow, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it was nothing I even wanted, but it's so cool, like now I want it. But I forgot about the fundamentals.
I had a couple who was coming from out of state, and they said, we want they said, we want a fenced yard. That's very important to us. I said, really? I said, is that pretty common where you live? And they said, yes. I said, well, it's going to be really, really, really hard to find here. And there are some allotments that won't even let you put a fence up. I'm like, so if you make that a deal breaker, you're going to really, really limit what you can see in your price point. I said a lot of people use invisible fence, like let's look at that route. And so we went into every house thinking where the door is, can we make an invisible fence work? Where the exit out of the house is, can we make that work? Is there room? Or if we put a fence in, where would we? And so it's kind of helping them see the right thing. And the same is true for the real estate agent because you can tell them those stories so they can have that in their thought process of teaching people. But then you can also use those examples to kind of show them how to listen to a client and offer different ideas that will help the client get to their end result, which was in this case making sure their dog was safe and what that might look like in what your area, because every area is different. So if they're coming from out of the area, they might look at things differently, than what somebody else would. And so it's kind of like helping them with things like, well, we don't really have fences around here, so how can we work that? If like maybe how much would it cost you to add a fence? Where would you put it versus like, oh, you're going to see one house, that's all that's available with a fence. And so it's just kind of knowing those things and then teaching the people you're coaching how to have that problem solving mindset. You've got to have a problem solving mindset too. It's not just always teaching A, B, and C. It's like, how would you solve this problem? How could you handle this? How could you help them find this? How do you know, those kind of things. And that is very important.
Yeah, I think I love that you said the problem solving thing because that is all business. We're all in business because we solve problems. That's what we have. That's our value we bring, right? And in your industry in particular, you're going to be solving a lot of problems. Just like you're saying, it might be the fence, it might be the access, it might be the size of the drive, it might be whatever, right? There's all these things that people want, or maybe they're going to add, right? Is this going to be a doable thing? Can I expand this? Maybe I'm going to get this place and in 3 years we want to put an addition on. Is that going to be a possibility, right? So you're going to help them see that and like put that in place to make that deal work now, because now you have to paint the picture of the future and what this stuff would look like. And that's problem solving. That's what that is. So I love that. I love that aspect. And I think if more people we always say problems are opportunities, right? Every problem someone has is an opportunity. And I think that there's no difference in real estate than there is in construction. You're saying you get a problem. If you think it's an opportunity, a problem is a chance for you to close the deal. If you can solve the problem, whether there's 1, 2, or 3 problems, again, they're going to love you. You took care of the issue. They're actually getting the house. They know they like this except for, and you say, well, you just do this and this and this. and then you can have
Right. And
that.
some people come into real estate with all kinds of different backgrounds. So maybe they've never had a job before. Maybe they've had a traditional, 9 to 5, whatever. And so they don't, especially anymore, it seems like they think that it's a lot like TV. So, you show 3 houses and they buy, and everyone is, it's not, and so they don't realize all of the other components to it. And some companies, they say that they train and they do, but not, I don't know. I think a lot of them don't train like they should. Or, you can have an agent that is your coach and they make X percentage of your certain amount of sales, which is fine. But sometimes that bar is set pretty low. So if your office isn't producing that much and there's 1 or 2 agents who are making that, using that as side money, they might not have much more experience than you do. And that's why sometimes an outside coach who's done it a long time in different areas and different kind of sales. I mean, we flipped houses, we've had rentals, we've done short-term rentals, my husband and I. I mean, we've bought and sold different kinds of properties. And so as an agent and a consumer, there are things that we can help with, that I can help with, that they might not be getting and where they're working. And that is kind of a difference too, of why just because somebody offers services, like we talked about before, make sure they have the experience behind it. And that is a big thing, I think.
Yeah, I think I don't want to take this wrong, but you don't want the free stuff. That you go to a realtor, hey, we'll train you and we'll get that. Even though you give them a little bit of commission, it's really free. Okay. I mean, they're going to take it out when you sell something, and I'm just saying this from my years and years of coaching. When you pay attention. Okay. When you want someone of high caliber, someone that's really going to get you where you want to go. And I call it time compression. If you want to take 10 years and compress them into one, I would hope you do. You get someone like Esta, who's got 20 years in the game, who's on all the different levels, can train you. That's what the good coaches bring, is time compression. That's what you pay for, right? Because I want to do what that person's doing, but it took them 6 years to get there. I'd like to get there in a year. Well, you can do that with the right coach, right? That's what matters. And people need to put that in perspective, understand that it's an investment in coaching. It's an investment in you, in yourself. Okay. If you're going to get better, no professional athlete works without a coach. You usually have multiple coaches, right? So
Right.
in every level of that, coaching is really, really critical. I did it in tutoring for my son, right? He's getting ready to go in the Marine Corps. You got to take the ASVAB. We didn't score real high because we don't do standardized testing because we homeschool. I got him a tutor for a couple hours. Okay. He topped it out, can do anything he wanted to think. He wasn't doing that. So we got a tutor, paid to fix it in a month. He went from a 16 to an 89. Okay. That's unbelievable, right? I mean, even the recruiter's like, no one does this. I go, well, you got to get the right help. You bring in the coach.
Right. Sure.
My daughter, you got prep volleyball. I get a prep. Yeah, you got get a few individual lessons here and there, fine tune the gift. So I just want that to be the big takeaway here when we talk about coaching, because again, you can be a skeptic back in the day, really looking, but I think we've really kind of uncovered what you should be looking for from a coach, especially in your industry, right? You're looking for the experience. You're looking for method. You're looking for time compression, right? So like you said, a discovery call, things like that. So to kind of wrap this up, how do people get in touch with you as to, like, is there a discovery call you're going to do? You got some stuff you want to give them. What are you thinking for that? What's your process in that aspect?
You can find us on j2911coaching.com. And on that point, you can contact us, and we do have a questionnaire that we give you to see what you're looking for and if we're a right fit, because I think your coach has to be a right fit. And then we can go from there and help you get started and meet your goals and give you that one-on-one support that you need, tailor-made to what you're looking for. And our contact information is on there as well. And yeah, well, we've got blogs on there and things that will help you that way, so that you can kind of see what we're like, and we want to help you get started.
Oh, that's awesome. Coaching.com. That'll be in the show notes. We'll have all that stuff, so you guys will have that too. Esther, I just want to thank you for spending the time with us today. You brought some real nuggets. See, you get your nuggets from your books. You get them from our podcast. You can always get something good from these shows. I've been super blessed to have amazing guests on every single episode. And that's one thing I love, just from the business aspect. There's so many different elements you can take away, and podcasting is another tool that people can use. So again, you've heard Esta here. If you listen, I'm glad you listen to podcasts. Seek out others, right? Find this stuff. Become a master at what you do. That's what we all want to do as business owners. Really master it. It doesn't have to own you, but you need to be great at it. And a coach like Esta is going to help you do that in the real estate industry. So until next time, we'll see you again on STS. And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now.